They called him a coward, a traitor, a man too scared to fight. In 1970, Muhammad Ali wasn't just coming back to boxing. He was coming back from exile, banned from the sport for refusing to fight in Vietnam, stripped of his titles, branded a draft dodger by the media. The world's most famous fighter had become the most hated man in America. And now, to reclaim his throne, Ali had to face a man who wasn't just ready to fight. He was ready to humiliate him. Oscar "Ringo" Bonavena wasn't the champion, but he had the one weapon Ali had never faced before: relentless, unapologetic disrespect. This wasn't just a fight. This was a grudge match born out of hatred. 3 years. That's how long Muhammad Ali had been gone from boxing. 3 long years spent in courtrooms and college campuses instead of boxing rings, speaking out against a war he believed was wrong, while the heavyweight division moved on without him. Joe Frazier became champion, new contenders rose, and the man once known as the greatest was left on the outside looking in. But when Ali's suspension was finally lifted, he didn't ask for an easy tune-up. He wanted the biggest, loudest fight possible, and Oscar Bonavena gave him exactly that. Bonavena was built like a tank and talked like a street brawler. "Clay, you chicken," he shouted at press conferences. "No champion, no power," he told reporters.
Muhammad Ali no champion. You understand?
He called Ali a kangaroo, mocked his refusal to serve in Vietnam, and promised to knock him out cold. And Bonavena wasn't all talk. He dropped Joe Frazier twice. He'd gone toe-to-toe with some of the toughest heavyweights alive and never been knocked out. His chin was iron, his style wild and unpredictable. If Ali wanted back into the heavyweight elite, this was the price of admission. December 7th, 1970, Madison Square Garden. The stage was set. The exile was over, and Muhammad Ali was about to find out if he still had what it took to be the greatest. If there was one thing Muhammad Ali understood better than anyone, it was that fights are won long before the first bell rings. And in 1970, nobody played the psychological game better than he did. But Oscar Bonavena. Oscar wanted to beat Ali at his own game. Every press conference was a circus, every interview a chance to poke the bear. "Clay, you too scared. Clay, you no champion," Bonavena would yell, his thick Argentinian accent cutting through the chaos. He mocked Ali's pretty face, called him soft, and told the American public that the so-called Louisville lip was nothing but a chicken. Ali, of course, fired back with verbal lightning. "You are a phony," he snapped. "I'm the real champion. I'm back to reclaim what's mine."
You're gonna see 2 heavyweight champions fighting. One is the phony and one is the real one, and it's gonna be easy to distinguish who is the phony.
The insults grew so intense that promoters barely had to advertise the fight. The trash talk sold itself. Reporters swarmed every exchange. Newspapers printed every insult. And as the tension grew, so did the stakes. But beneath the theatrics there was a dangerous truth. Bonavena was a real threat. He wasn't polished, he wasn't graceful, but he was strong, brutally strong. And he had the kind of chin that could walk through punches that would have dropped anyone else. His wild, looping attacks didn't follow a boxer's textbook. They were unpredictable, awkward, chaotic, the kind of style that can ruin even the most skilled fighter's rhythm. And Ali knew it. This wasn't Sonny Liston or Ernie Terrell. This wasn't a heavyweight dance. This was going to be a war. On December 7, 1970, 19,000 fans packed Madison Square Garden, buzzing with anticipation. Cameras flashed. The ring announcer's voice boomed. And as Ali and Bonavena locked eyes for the final stare-down, it wasn't just a fight anymore. It was a clash of pride, politics, and personality. A battle for respect. The bell was about to ring, and the greatest show in boxing was just beginning. The bell rang, and Madison Square Garden roared to life. This wasn't the graceful, dancing Ali the world remembered. From the opening seconds, Oscar Bonavena made sure of that. The Argentinian bull charged forward, swinging wild hooks and looping shots. He wasn't interested in a chess match. He wanted a street fight. Ali circled, jabbed, and tried to find his rhythm, but the layoff showed. His timing was rusty, his footwork just a step slower than before. Bonavena's pressure was relentless, and for the first time in years, the greatest looked human. Round after round, Bonavena kept coming. His chin absorbed Ali's jabs like they were nothing. His awkward style threw off Ali's usual precision. By round 3, the unthinkable was happening. Bonavena was winning the crowd. Chants of "Ringo, Ringo" echoed through the garden as he muscled Ali against the ropes and landed looping left hooks that snapped the former champion's head back. Ali, ever the showman, tried to play it cool. After one round, he leaned over the ropes and taunted, "Come on!" But there was tension behind the smile. Bonavena wasn't folding. In fact, he seemed to grow stronger with every exchange. By the middle rounds, the fight had turned into a brutal war of attrition. Ali's skill was still there, the jabs, the slips, the combinations. But Bonavena's pressure made every second a test of endurance. At times, Ali even held on to catch his breath, something fans almost never saw. It was a shocking sight. The former champion, once untouchable, being dragged into a brawl by a man most experts had dismissed as a stepping stone. By round 10, the scorecards were razor close. Some had Ali up by a round, others saw Bonavena ahead. But one thing was clear: this was no comeback parade. This was a dogfight, and if Ali wanted his redemption, he was going to have to earn it the hard way. The fight was reaching its breaking point, and neither man was ready to give an inch. By the start of round 11, Madison Square Garden was holding its breath. The fight that was supposed to be a showcase had become a war, and Muhammad Ali, the man who once floated like a butterfly, was being dragged into the trenches. But champions are made in moments like these, and Ali wasn't about to let this story end in defeat. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Ali started timing Bonavena's reckless rushes, slipping just outside the arc of those wild hooks and punishing him with crisp jabs and sharp right hands. His footwork, once hesitant, came alive. He circled and pivoted, forcing Bonavena to chase, making the bull miss and pay. Round 13 was classic Ali. The patience, the precision, the poetry. He began to paint the fight with punches, each one landing cleaner than the last. Bonavena still pressed forward, still refused to back down, but now the toll of his own aggression was catching up to him. His punches slowed. His defense, never great to begin with, started to crumble. By round 14, the Argentinian's once iron chin was showing cracks. Ali's jabs split his guard. His straight rights found the mark. Every exchange now belonged to the greatest. Still, Bonavena wouldn't fold. He gritted his teeth and marched forward, throwing haymakers until the final bell. Then came round 15, the last round, the final stand. A perfectly timed left hand from Ali landed flush. Bonavena staggered. The crowd gasped. Then came a right, another left, and the unthinkable happened. For the first time in his career, Oscar Bonavena was knocked down. He beat the count, but the end was near. Ali swarmed, raining punches with surgical fury until the referee had no choice but to wave it off. After 15 brutal rounds, Muhammad Ali was victorious by knockout.
Ali is the knockout winner at 2 minutes and 3 seconds.
The comeback was complete. The exile was over, and the message was clear. Muhammad Ali was still the greatest. When the final bell rang on December 7, 1970, Muhammad Ali didn't just win a fight. He reclaimed his place in the world. The 3 years of exile, the headlines calling him a coward, the government trying to erase him from the sport, none of it could stop him. He had returned not just as a boxer, but as a symbol, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. But what made this victory truly special wasn't the knockout. It was the test. Bonavena had pushed Ali to his limits. He'd made him dig deep in ways he hadn't in years. And when it was over, even Oscar himself, the man who once called Ali a chicken, had to admit it. Standing face to face with the champion, Bonavena said quietly, "You are a great fighter."
I'm sorry I called you chicken. You are a great champion.
And I want to say to
and
him,
you can
thank
see
you.
the scene
and
now.
I want to say he's my roughest fight today.
It was a rare moment of humility from a man who had built his career on brashness and bravado. Unfortunately, Bonavena's own story wouldn't have a happy ending. Despite his toughness and talent, he never again reached the same heights. And just a few years later, in a shocking turn of fate, he was killed during an altercation at a brothel, a tragic and abrupt end to a life that had once seemed larger than the sport itself. Ali, upon hearing the news, called Bonavena the funniest man I ever met, and credited him with giving him one of the hardest nights of his career. For Ali, the victory was more than just a step toward the title. It was proof that the exile hadn't broken him. It paved the way for legendary battles with Joe Frazier, George Foreman, and Ken Norton. It was the spark that reignited the fire. In the end, the Bonavena fight wasn't about championships or records, and when the dust settled that night in Madison Square Garden, one truth echoed louder than any insult ever could. Muhammad Ali was, and always would be, the greatest. Muhammad Ali's war with Oscar Bonavena was more than a comeback. It was a statement. A message to the world that no exile, no insult, and no opponent could stop the greatest from rising again. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Ali's most underrated battles, hit that like button and subscribe for more legendary boxing stories. And let us know in the comments, which Ali fight do you want us to break down next? Until next time, stay sharp, fight smart, and keep swinging.